Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I'm really excited today. She's been one of my favorite people forever, and she's had quite the athletic career, academic career. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our guest, Miss Emma Slack. And Emma, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real pleasure. So, Emma, let me ask you, how did the love for softball begin for you? Just kind of take us down that road a little bit.
Um, I would say it was when I first did t-ball, when I lived in Derby. So I was around 5. And just from there, I got along well with everyone that was on the team. And I just liked the idea of being a part of something.
Right.
That I just continued with it. And like by the time I got up to coach pitch for the Ansonia Derby girls team, I just again bonded with all the girls, and the whole team idea was a big thing for me.
Right. And, sometimes it takes a while to really, you know, be receptive to a sport you're
Yeah.
playing. Did you like softball right away, or did it take you a little bit to enjoy it?
I would say that I liked it right away, and just as I got older, I just liked it even more. And as it got more challenging, my love for it continued.
Right. And, T-ball is like the learning year, you
Mhm.
learn the basics, stuff like that. It
Yeah.
again, you're hitting on the tee and stuff. So, I mean, that first year is always important because it's really teaching you how to play the game. Um, did you feel like you were confident to go into coach pitch after that?
Yeah, I think I was pretty confident. I think that I picked up on like you said the basics pretty fast. And yeah, I would say that I felt confident going to coach pitch.
Right. Emma, it's kind of very unique for you because you've kind of never stayed in one school for more than 3 years. I think you were in Bradley for 3 years, then you went to Long Hill for 2, Perry Hill
Yeah.
for another 2, Shelton Intermediate, and now Nease School. So, I mean, let me ask you: you've always been able to make friends and stuff, but you had a lot of friendships when you started in Derby. I mean, is it tough sometimes when you move town to town and then school to school?
I would definitely say at some points it was challenging. I mean, like you said, I had a ton of friends in like Derby because of the Boys and Girls Club. Um, but I still made friends at the Boys and Girls Club that lived in Shelton, so it kind of made that transition easier going from
Right.
like Bradley and Derby, which I was there until second grade, to Long Hill. Also, the school system in Shelton, like you do change up a lot because the elementary school only goes up to fourth grade, and then Perry Hill goes from fifth to sixth, and the intermediate school, which is only seventh and eighth, and then obviously high school.
Right.
Um, I would say that really the only challenging part was maybe from like Perry Hill to Shelton Intermediate, and then obviously from Shelton High School to Nease now in Florida.
Right.
Just the friends aspect and meeting new people.
Right. And Emma, talk to me about the first year coach pitch. And I mean, like, who were some of the coaches you had, some of the teammates you had, and how was that first year coach pitch? Because, it's always difficult because now, you're going against live pitching. And I know it's a coach, but still, it's a
Mhm.
lot different from T-ball. How was that first year doing that?
So I don't actually remember my coach's name for that first year.
Yeah.
Um, but I do know that like the biggest coaches for when, because I was only in Ansonia for about 1 year,
Yeah.
and then I moved to Shelton, so I had like my head coaches were Pete Keeman, Mike Kurtzman, and
Right.
with them, you could tell that they really cared about the sport. Their daughters were also in the program, so there was an easier like level of connecting with them because you're friends with their daughters, so you're just there was a more comfortable
Right. And you,
relationship there.
Right. And Emma, you played Shelton Little League, I think, right up till like, you were 12 years old, but you also played on, several travel teams
Mhm.
and, you played on the Gators team. Is it hard to play Little League and then play travel, because it's a lot of softball and, you're constantly playing, or do you just love the game so much you don't even think about that?
It was definitely different going from Little League to travel. I actually held off for like 2 years before I started doing travel,
Right.
because I had heard from other teammates in Little League that were on travel because they were older, that they were just worked so hard on their teams that it made them kind of dread going to practice and like lose their love for the game, which kind of is what happened with me. Um, just because of all the work and all the practices that you don't really have time to just enjoy the game. It's just a ton of like training and focusing on winning and not like learning throughout the process. But the transition wise, it was definitely different just with the amount of practice and the amount of work that you put into it, taken more seriously than Little League. And it's more competitive because it's tournament style. But I don't regret doing travel, and I definitely enjoyed it while I did it.
Right. So Emma, let me ask you, the first couple of years, what were some of the positions you played, and did you have a position that you preferred to play more than any of the others?
Second base was definitely my like top one preferred position. Because I like being in the infield, being in the middle of the action. But I did play my hand in playing outfield, like right field and sometimes center, which I never wanted to play outfields because when I was younger in Little League, it was kind of like the kids that aren't as involved in the game,
Right.
Play outfields because you're not really hitting that far. But then when I got to travel, playing outfields, you were still really live in the action. So I would say I rotated through second, a little bit of third at one point, and then outfield.
Right. And, Emma, you talk about the outfield. A couple of reasons I think kids don't like it. Number one, if like a pitcher's having a rough game and she's wild, you're out. It could be cold out there. It could be super hot, and you're just kind of you're standing out there. You're not really getting a lot of action. And then the other thing too is, it's very difficult sometimes to find the ball when the sun is really glaring on you. So, I mean, was that some of the reasons you didn't like playing the outfield probably as much as the infield?
Yeah, it definitely was, at least in like the first year of travel, because everyone was still, getting used to the difference between that and Little League, and then just working because there's more pressure with it. Like I said, because it's tournament style. So I think, like you said, the pitcher. There's definitely times that one of my pitchers wouldn't be doing their best, and it was kind of not boring, but kind of you're just standing out there in the outfield.
Right. And, Emma, travel, again, is a lot different than Little League in the sense that in Little League, I think there's rules. You have to play maybe 3 innings, 2 innings at least, where travel, you may not see the field. They're going to play the best players. And the other thing about it is, too, is, it's definitely more competitive. And, you're, like I said, you're also practicing every day, whereas, Little League, you're not. What would you say was the difference when you first were playing travel? What was the first thing you noticed that was different about it from Little League?
I would definitely say just like the rules, like you kind of just touched on. With travel, it varies between team because obviously each team that you're on has different contracts and stuff like that.
Right.
One of my teams was you were guaranteed at least 1 inning and 1 at bat per game, I believe.
Right.
So it really wasn't like you're paying and you're gonna play like the whole game. And I think that was a big difference because Little League, I was used to playing, the whole game, starting in the batting lineups, something like that. But on a travel team, you're there with a bunch of different girls from kind of all over, the surrounding towns with different talents, different experience levels. So that was a big difference.
Right.
My first year. Definitely as the years went on, obviously I was getting more playing time as I was getting better. But
right. And Emma, one thing about sports, sometimes you'll like a sport, sometimes you won't. But the one good thing about sports, and no matter what you play, is the friendships you make along the way. And you would meet 2 of your closest friends from playing softball. I think it was Lucy Person and Coco Bartone.
Yeah.
Just talk about them a little bit because, I know, especially Coco, I know you were very close with for many years, and you two were like, frick and frack. So just talk about, the friendships with those two and, how rewarding softball is when it comes to that.
Yeah, I became friends with both of them around the same time, and it was when I started playing for Shelton Little League after I moved to Shelton. And we just all clicked right away. We formed a solid friend group, would hang out outside of softball and still continue to practice softball, even off the field. And I think we all definitely had different strengths and weaknesses in terms of the game. And just all being so close, we were able to help each other without it being taken as like criticizing. And we definitely helped each other improve as a person and as a player.
Right.
Since we were able to have that on the field and off the field relationship. And Lucy, I continued to play field hockey with her when I got to the high school level. And it was the same thing then. Just still helping build the confidence of being like, if you're one of the main players, main positions with either sport, just having good, solid people that are out there on the field with you definitely just gives you more support, more confidence in how you're playing.
Right. And now, as you got to travel, Emma, were you strictly the infield more, or did you kind of move around a little bit? And you also pitched a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I pitched a little bit when I was still in Little League. That was towards the end before I aged out. And then with travel, I pitched, I believe it was like for the first season that I did travel. And one of my coaches was a pitcher for college. So she was kind of like the pitching coach on the team. And she definitely helped out, and that was good having her. I was kind of like a resource there. But for main positions, I kind of floated around that first year, which I think a lot of people do because the coaches are trying to see who works best in what situations. But I did play more infield my first years of travel.
And now second base was your favorite position, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, very important position, Emma, for a lot of reasons, obviously. But, your if somebody's trying to steal, you and the shortstop have to decide who's going to cover to throw.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't a lot of time to think. So you kind of have to just go with your, reaction. So, it's a fun position, but it's definitely got some pressure when you're playing it. Did you ever think about that during the game, or you're just too involved, you don't even worry about it?
I definitely did feel the pressure, and like before the pitcher would, pitch, definitely in my head, I'm trying to think about every possible scenario and try to make sure that whoever's playing shortstop is on the same page. In Little League, it actually worked out perfectly because I was playing second and Coco was playing shortstop, and since we were already such close friends off the field, we kind of just knew each other well enough to kind of know where each person was going to go. And same thing on travel because we both played on the same travel team for the first year. But I think definitely one of the biggest things with softball for me was just building the connections with my teammates. So the whole pressure wasn't really there as much once the ball was actually put into play because I just knew my teammates.
Right. And Emma, let me ask you this. We'll get to your hidden accomplishments in a second, but, how were you as a hitter early on? I mean, one thing that I think sometimes is difficult too is, not knowing where the ball is going to go when it, are you ever up at that plate worrying the ball might hit you and stuff? Because sometimes that could really mess with your game, or do you just not think about it when it's happening?
I never really thought about like getting hit by a pitch, or I definitely got into my head a lot because it took kind of a while to like through Little League to get to like my best hitting ability, I guess you could say. But when I was on travel, I ended up being for I think a few tournaments, I was like the designated hitter. Because we had a lot of people on our team, and so my coaches used us all to our best abilities. And hitting was definitely one of my strong suits at one point.
Right.
And I liked it because it kind of had more or less pressure on me to like make the perfect play, like at second base or something, but it still gave me a sense of control over the game. Because if I hit the ball and it was a home run, okay, well, that just got us a run if it was an RBI. Or if it was just a nice grounder, okay, at least maybe I moved people along, the bases if I got out at first. So you kind of have
Right.
control over what the next situation is going to be and how it's all going to pan out.
Right. And, Emma, the positive about being a DH is, it gives an extra bat in the lineup. So somebody who may not play the field, like yourself, wasn't playing the field right away.
Mm-hmm.
You got to hit, so you got to be involved. But the negative is, say, you strike out or you make an out, you can go right back out in that field and make up for it in the next inning. You always have a chance to kind of redeem yourself. Whereas if you play DH, you have to wait till you bat again. So it's funny how softball and baseball could be, because you could feel, like you messed up and didn't do this right. And then about 30 seconds later, you can make a great play and it's forgotten about.
Right,
so
yeah.
That's the beauty of, softball and baseball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely was one of the downsides of being a DH. But I think that if I did, strike out, or I hit a pop fly right in the infield and it got caught, or if it just wasn't a good play, then I definitely tried to make it up just from being behind the fence in the dugout, paying attention to every possible situation and just playing it in my head as if I was on the field, so that I could, kind of communicate with my teammates.
Right.
And just yell out to them possibilities, because, from an outside point of view, not being on the field, you see things a little bit differently.
Right.
Yeah.
So Emma, talk to me about this a little bit, because, the most important thing in baseball and softball is the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes players will be like, why do we work on this over and over again in practice? But they really do make a difference in the games. When you're constantly, doing infield or doing outfield and turning a double play, bunting, all the little things that go in to making, the team better and individuals better. So just talk about the importance of fundamentals in practice every day.
Well, obviously everyone knows that practice makes perfect, but going over the fundamentals of softball, and I guess really any sport, is it builds like muscle memory. So like you said, turning a double play at like second base, if you don't practice that enough and you don't have like the muscle memory down where you're able to just catch the ball and not be looking at the bag to make sure you're stepping on it to get that out, then that's going to take more time, and a lot of knowing all of the fundamentals and repeating them and just having the muscle memory and just the confidence of knowing what you're going to do next is big in saving time in the game, because a lot of games and umpires, obviously there's time limits and you don't really want to be going into overtime or an extra inning if it's a tie. You want to just get the win and make sure that you can stay on top of it. So a lot of the fundamentals is just saving time and making sure that everything is clean and you don't, drop the ball or throw wrong and it goes short, or, catch it and miss it and waste more time and let people run through the bases.
Right. And, Emma, one of the important things, whether you're an outfielder or infielder, is when you're making a play, to not look at the ball. You have to look at, the first baseman when you're throwing the first. And, those are the things they teach you in practice all the time is, don't look at the ball, just look at, the person you're throwing it. Right. So, all that stuff comes, plays a big part in everything. That's why, you constantly have a catch with your teammate before you start, stuff like that. And really, that's what makes a good ball player, is doing all those things that you need to do in order to be better.
Yeah, and I was lucky to have good coaches, especially during Little League, because those are, the main stages of learning the fundamentals and really getting into the sport. Was that they all knew the game well enough to be able to break down each thing, like to be able to break down all the parts and steps to just simply throwing the ball to get to get your muscles trained into doing that, so that you are able to just, kind of do it without thinking or without looking.
Right. Let's move away from softball for just a second. Emma, obviously, your academics are outstanding and, high honor student. You're a tremendous student, obviously. And, you also were part of a group at the Boys and Girls Club, the Torch Club. And your first year, you stepped up and you ran for event coordinator. You won. And, you're not that loud leader, Emma, that's going to, be aggressive and, bark at people or whatever. But you're kind of like, Derek Jeter was always that quiet leader. He kind of led by example. And that's how you've always done things. Just talk about, when it comes to school or it comes to sports and, just leading by example and not necessarily having, to yell at people to get your point across.
Well, one, I definitely think I'm like that because just as me, I kind of always look to see what other people are doing and kind of
Right.
follow by example. So I think just naturally I lead by example. And like you said with Torch Club and the event coordinator, I think when I was young like that, I kind of just liked having control. Um,
Right.
but it also was I like being productive and having something to do and being a part of something, whether it's just from behind the scenes. Because I'm not one to be, looking for the credit, looking for people to be like, oh yeah, that was you that did that, great job, and the compliments and stuff like that. Um, it's just more for things to run smoothly and make sure that everyone else that's involved is, on track and having fun with it and enjoying it.
Right. And, you know, Emma, at the Boys and Girls Club, you were always that type of kid that was friends with everybody. You'd always
Mhm.
kind of be a mentor to the younger kids there. And, you know, you always knew how to play around and joke around and have fun. And I mean, really, like, you just were always a positive person throughout your life. And just talk it because that's, you know, not always easy to be,
Mhm.
especially when, you know, you have obstacles you have to overcome sometimes. Just talk about how, you know, every day you always have that positive outlook on things.
Well, I obviously definitely went through big obstacles in my life, but I
Right.
think that making sure that I stayed positive was a way of subconsciously reminding myself that everything's going to be okay in the end. There's always tomorrow. If you don't get one thing done one day, don't let it, take down your whole day. Or especially because there's definitely drama at the Boys and Girls Club between friends. Um,
Yeah.
if it didn't happen for more than 5 minutes, then it's not that big of a deal. It's gonna blow over. Everything's gonna be fine. I just don't like to stress over the little things. Obviously, sometimes I
Right.
do because it's natural, but I don't like to stress over the little things and let them really bring down the whole day.
Right. You know, Emma, we talked about Coco and we talked about Lucy, but
Mhm.
two other kids that you've been friends with for many years and have a great bond with are Leah Lovington and Cassie Silkoff. And
Mhm.
just talk about those two because, you know, you met them when you were at Derby and you've had a friendship with them that's kind of lasted. You're a junior in high school now, so you're talking 12 years probably. Just talk
Yeah.
about them a little bit because I know they've been a big part of your life.
Oh, for sure. Well, we met just because we were in the same friend group in Derby. We would go trick or treating together every year. Cassie is going into her freshman year this year, so she's obviously younger than me and Leah. And we just became a close knit group of friends. There's definitely other people that were in that. It was just a really good and supportive group. We were all just like family. Leah was definitely a big part. She was there with me through big things that happened in my life, and so was
Right.
Cassie Silkoff. Even if she was, younger, she definitely was a big, just part of my support system there, along with both of their families. And I think just again having those close people in my life, whether it was a ton of people or just a few close friends, just made everything kind of made me be able to be more positive, like we said before, just 'cause I know that I have the support behind me and that everything would be okay.
Right. And, you know, speaking of friends and support, you know,
Mhm.
I know one friend who's probably been your best friend your whole life. And, you know, again, you've had to overcome obstacles with her as well as your mother, Beth. And
Mhm.
just talk about her a little bit because I know that she has obviously had a big impact on you throughout your whole
Yeah.
life.
She's probably the biggest of my whole support system. It was, just the two of us for a little bit, so we definitely have a close uh, relationship. Obviously, we butt heads sometimes, just like anyone does.
Right.
But she really has, supported me through everything that I've done. Um, really when I, would be struggling with school or stressed out about a project, she was always there saying, "What do you want me to do? How can I help you?" Or just reminding me that I'm gonna get it done. I always, figure things out. Softball, she was there for every single one of my games
Right.
when I was younger. And in Little League, she would stay there for every single practice. And then, as much as she doesn't totally, understand the game or, you know, know like
Yeah.
the little things that people that are playing do, she would still say, "You did a really good job up at bat today," or blah, blah, blah. And if she would be able to tell that I was kind of feeling down about how I played, she would talk to me, figure out what it was. And even if it was just me explaining to her, how that
Right.
part of the game works where I messed up, it would still help. And she would still say, well, you'll practice and you'll fix it tomorrow or something like that.
Right.
Something with field hockey, since that was, a new sport that I played. It's hard to just pick up on everything, but I think that it was good. And she definitely reminded me to not go into the game thinking that I'm going to be the best, because it was my first year playing field hockey during my freshman year. And that definitely helped, because I feel like with softball, since I've been playing so long, or I had played for so long, that as I got older, I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of one of the oldest players in the program, kind of having that better than other people attitude, which definitely isn't something that you should have.
Right.
But when she had said that about field hockey right before the season started, I definitely remembered that and made sure that I just paid attention to how other people were playing and used everything as constructive criticism.
Right. And Emma, let's get back to softball now. So I know you pitched a little bit. Number one, how did you start to, get the love for pitching? And number two, how was that first game pitching? I mean, a lot of butterflies. You don't seem like the type of kid that gets nervous, Emma, but at the same time, anytime you try something new, it's different. So there had to be a little nerves there.
Yeah, there definitely was. I first got into pitching because I'm pretty sure we were short players and kind of needed somebody to go in and pitch.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to do that. In that first game, I kind of was just like, well, obviously I'm not going to be the best pitcher. It's my first game. I haven't really been practicing it that long. But I kind of just went into it, and before I would pitch the ball, I just broke down the few key components of the motion, because obviously softball, it's underhand, and just quickly go over that and just make sure that I hit all those points before I released the ball. And also, especially in Little League and even in travel, I knew that I had good teammates behind me in the field. So if it was a bad pitch, or if it was right down the middle, an easy pitch to hit, I knew that it wouldn't really take us down or, kind of harm us that much, because we had the good team behind us, or behind me, to kind of make up for it. So yeah, I think that my love for pitching was just kind of having the control, but also not like an insane amount of pressure, since I knew that I had good teammates behind me.
Right. And let me ask you, that first strikeout you ever got, I mean, that has to be awesome too, because I mean, you want to succeed, and you're still a kid. It had to feel great when that happened, obviously.
Yeah. My first strikeout was definitely along the same lines of the feeling that I got when I hit my first home run. It's kind of just one, relieving a lot of pressure from the rest of the team. Because obviously if you don't strike them out, okay, well, obviously they hit the ball and they're advancing. So kind of the first strikeout, I think it was just a good feeling. Right.
And speaking of which, you're good, Emma, at letting me segue into my next topics. You've done that 3 times already today. But, you did, every kid's dream, I don't care who it is to hit a home run. And sometimes it does happen, sometimes it doesn't, but it's everybody's dream. Mm-hmm. So just talk about that first home run you ever hit. And I mean, did you go around that field never wanting to touch home plate? You just wanted to kind of take it all in?
My first home run, I actually surprisingly remember it very vividly, but it was a walk-off home run.
Oh, wow. Even better.
Yeah. And I believe that one, it was either over the fence or it was like right before it. And it was at a Mother's Day tournament when I was playing for the Gators. And I really wasn't paying attention to where the ball went. All I knew is that I had the opportunity to just keep running, because I kind of saw how far it was going to go. And so I just kept running around the bases. And then at one point I heard one of my coaches, I think, screaming that I didn't have to run because, it was a walk-off. I just got to go home or to home plate. And then when I got to home plate, my whole team was just standing there, jumping up and down, cheering. Because it might have been an RBI. I don't totally remember. I just remember being in shock of the fact that I just hit a home run. So yeah, it was a good feeling. just seeing my whole team there, knowing that like, oh, I didn't strike out and let them down, and I, helped us out as a team.
Right. And, to hit a walk-off, I mean, you'll always have that memory, no matter how old you get, that's a memory you have for life. Let me ask you, you talked about your teammates standing there and stuff. You girls played in a ton of tournaments, you traveled everywhere, a lot of sacrifice on your part, which is amazing, how you've kept up with your grades and stuff so well. But just talk about all the tournaments you played with them. And there's really bonds that you form with all of them because you girls are together all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So I played for 2 different travel teams, so I did meet a fair share of people. Obviously, there's no way to become super close with every single person on the team. But when I was playing for the Gators, that was a really close group of people. A lot of them who I'm still friends with today, or still, keep in touch with. And same thing with Bullets. I knew a lot of the girls that played on that team because they went to Oxford High School. And just from, living near each other, you just kind of know each other. But I had some good bonds with the people, which just helped us all improve and kind of be in sync more together on the field, which also made us get yelled at by our coaches less.
Yeah.
So we had, a better relationship with our coaches too. And just, I think we all worked hand in hand well together and helped each other improve as both people and as players.
Right. And, Emma, you've taken on a new sport the last couple of years. You touched on it a little bit. Talk to me about field hockey because, that's a fun sport to play, obviously, but it's definitely a sport, that, again, it's fast paced and, you got to really be on top of your game. Just talk about how that love for field hockey began and, how the last 2 years been for you. Well, obviously, COVID probably interfered last year.
I was only able to play. Yeah, I was only able to play my freshman year. Because.
So talk about that a little bit.
So I had talked about it with one of my friends, Tiffany Montoya, in 8th grade about joining it because we knew people that were already in high school that were playing. Jackie Janko and the Keemans, which I had played Little League with for many years. We knew people that were playing, and we figured, why not just try something new? It's freshman year. Just do something fun. And who knows, maybe we'll fall in love with it and want to play the rest of our high school career. So I showed up I actually forgot about it. And then it was like halfway through the summer. And I think she had texted me asking if I was going to the summer conditioning or practice for it. I was like, oh, I completely forgot about that. And then I ended up going. I was friends with a bunch of people on the team, so it wasn't really that nerve-wracking meeting new people and a new sport because obviously you don't want people to judge you on being terrible if you're absolutely terrible.
Right.
But I think just, like you said, it's a very fast-paced game no matter if you're playing, defense or midfield. You're still running up and down that field and being a big part of it. But the love from it, I think, just came from like the adrenaline that you get because I played defense, and there's 3 defenders, so I was the center defense, and playing that position, you're able to move further up the field than the other 2 defenders because they kind of want to stay back in case the ball just turns around and starts coming back towards our goal.
Right.
So since I don't like running, that's why I played defense. It didn't really work out that way. But I was still able to get kind of really right into the action while still having that sense of control of knowing that if the ball turns around, I know exactly where it's going. I can tell the other defenders, where to move to make sure that we can keep the ball on the opposite side of the field. And that just was a lot of adrenaline and just knowing that all of the girls there wanted the same thing, which is obviously different than softball. Because softball, okay, you might want to bunt it to advance other players that are on the bases. And it's not so much about you getting to first base. It's just about the advancement. Whereas field hockey, there's one goal and it's to get it in the goal.
Right.
So, yeah.
And Emma, again, I mean, you're always, type of person that tries different things. I mean, it sounds like you really love this sport a lot. And I mean, it seems like it's kind of taken over softball now. Like it's become your number 1 sport, correct?
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was only able to play field hockey for my freshman year because
Right.
then COVID hit, and I was only at Shelton High for my sophomore year for the first month
Yeah.
before I moved to Florida, and they don't have it here. So it's kind of unfortunate, but I still, keep in touch with all of my teammates from the field hockey team, and just I still kind of know what's going on with the sport at Shelton High. So
Right. And let me ask you this, Emma. Again, we talked about not being at one school more than 3 years. Now, you trade in the cold winters for, sunshine year round. Just talk about the move to Florida, because while I'm sure you love it, it had to be an adjustment in the beginning. You're leaving a group of people you've known forever, and it's a whole new, you're like the new kid on the block there. But
yeah.
it sounds like, you're really enjoying your time in Florida.
Mhm. Well, moving to Florida was a topic in my family for a couple of years before it actually happened, which kind of was good and bad because I was able to see it coming, but I also didn't really expect it to actually happen since we just had been talking about it for so many years and it never happened. Um, I wish that we were able to move either before I started freshman year or
Right.
after I graduated. That wouldn't really affect me too much. But the move was definitely hard in terms of like friends because, I had all my friends in Derby that I'm still friends with, all my friends in Shelton, and then just, other ones around the area. And I have a really good, solid group of friends from Shelton that it was hard leaving. Um, but when I moved here, it was very weird because I was expecting to be like the new girl in every class and people like notice that there was a new person. But because my school is so big, there's over 1,300 kids at my school,
Wow.
and everyone is constantly moving to Florida. There's always new people, so no one actually really notices, which was a blessing and a curse because it was a little bit harder to make friends. But there also wasn't the pressure of having to really give that first impression
Right.
all the time. So it was definitely a big change. Like you said, especially with the weather too. I think it's like 95 degrees right now, and it's not even 11 o'clock. But
Right. And Emma, the other change about it too is, when you went to school in Derby and Shelton, you either started the last week of August or after Labor Day. School starts, August 12th to August 13th in
yeah,
Florida. So
I started on August 16th this year.
yeah, and that's early, because there's
Mhm.
still plenty of summer left. So I'm sure you get out early, which is nice. But at the same time, you start school a lot earlier than you would in, Connecticut. I mean, was
Yeah.
that an adjustment or not really?
It kind of was because last year, they actually started later than they normally do, because of COVID and just making sure that everything was all set. So we ended up getting out of school last year around the same time that I would have if I was still living in Connecticut. So that wasn't really totally different. But then starting in August, pretty much a month before anyone in Shelton was, or really anyone in Derby, was starting, it was definitely different because the summer felt shorter. Um, but I was still able to do a lot in the summer, go back to Connecticut and visit everyone
Right.
and just hang out with my friends like I wanted to. But it's definitely a good thing because I'll get out of school earlier this year. I'll get out in May. So, or actually,
Right.
no, the beginning of June. So,
Right. Right. And, Emma, another teammate that you said you had mentioned, off air, that really has been a positive presence in your life and has helped with your dedication and stuff. I think Jordan
mhm.
Zeller. Yeah.
Yeah,
Talk about just, the impact Jordan's had on you and stuff.
we've been friends for a long time. We weren't always like super close or anything, but we just knew who each other were. I believe we met at the recreation camp in Derby
Right.
in summer and kind of became friends there. Then just as when the camp ended, we just didn't talk anymore. Then summer came back and we'd still be friends. And I played with her on the Ansonia Derby softball team for those 2 or so years that I played. Um,
Right.
and we stayed friends. Our moms were friends on Facebook, and we just kind of knew what was going on in each other's lives without talking all the time or really hanging out. But we definitely had a lot of fun when we played together in those younger years. And then we actually ended up playing on the same travel team. Not even intentionally. I didn't even know that she had tried out. And we kind of just became friends all over again. And that was good.
Right.
Mhm.
So Emma, let me ask you this. You're 2 years away from graduating, and it's kind of hard to ask somebody what they want to be because sometimes you get to college and you still aren't sure what you want to do, but
Mhm.
you have like an idea. What is the goal for Emma Slack, number one, for these next 2 years, and number two, going forward? Do you have any career aspirations right now that you're thinking of?
These next 2 years, I definitely want to really hone in on school and make sure that I can get my grades, make sure that they, I stay on top of them, which luckily for me isn't too challenging because I kind of pick up things quickly. Although I am taking harder classes this year, so that it's definitely going to be a little bit more challenging. But really,
Right.
the next 2 years, I just want to make sure that I, keep everything, all my grades up, don't slack at all, and especially get my GPA up these next 2 years because after I graduate, I want to go to college and I want to become a physical therapist.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's been a lot of things over the years that I wanted to do, for a career path, but physical therapy has been one that's, really stuck and me still wanting to do it. So I think that's definitely what I'm going to go towards. Um, and the University of Florida has one of the best programs for that, but it's also a more challenging school to get into with the GPA requirements and the SAT and ACT requirements. So that's really why I want to focus on my grades this year and make sure that I stay on top of everything.
Right. And Emma, let me ask you this. You're gonna do a lot of great things as time goes on. But
Mhm.
right now, what would you say, for a 16, 17-year-old kid like yourself, what has been probably the most rewarding thing for you thus far in your life, if you had to pick just one thing?
That's a hard question.
It's-
I think one of the most rewarding things, um, academic wise, is probably my like streak of high honors that I had because I've had that
right.
pretty much my whole career of there being high honors. Once you get to the grade level, that they actually pay attention to that. Um, Doing that and also getting into the AP and honors classes that I wanted to get into this year. Um, but outside of school, I think definitely one of the biggest rewarding things was, I don't know if it would be like rewarding, but just the fact that I'm able to adapt easily to
Yeah.
different situations and scenarios in my life. Um, I think just how everything always pans out in a good way and works out in the end is definitely a rewarding feeling, just knowing that everything's okay.
Right. And finally, last question, Emma, before we go. If you could offer advice to anybody that, has had to go through adversity like you did yourself and, wants to do something great in their life, whether it's be, a musician, an artist, whatever it might be, what advice would you give them, going forward with whatever they want to do?
I think it would definitely be to not slack because you'll regret it at the end. If you kind of let your grades fall freshman year, then you have to spend the rest of your high school career bringing those back up and making sure you can stay on track for whatever career it is that you want to go into. But also just make sure that you really want to pursue whatever it is, and not let anyone tell you any different. Because obviously, there's some reason that career is attracting you. Like you said, whether it's music, obviously something in the music industry is getting your attention. And I think with that, a lot of people probably receive backlash for that because not everyone may think that they're talented, for example. But
Yeah.
I think it's definitely not to let other people bring you down. It's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Emma, this was a lot of fun. First off, I really admire you and what you've done over the years. I mean, you've always been the type of kid who, just goes out there and, does what she wants to do. You don't let anything stop you. You don't make any excuses. And I congratulate you on all the success you've had thus far. And I just know going forward, you're going to do wonderful things. And it was really an honor to have you on today. It really
Thank
was.
you for having me.
I appreciate it. You know, folks, when I first met Emma Slack, I think she was about maybe a 6 or 7 year old kid. Right away, you could see the leadership that she has and the drive that she has. She, no matter what the activity is, she was always involved in something. And she was always a friend to everybody. It didn't matter, you know, if she knew the person well, she would always go out and make them feel, you know, accepted and make them feel like they were $1,000,000. That's always been Emma Slack. And you heard her today. And the thing that I found most ironic about her during this interview is every time we talked about her accomplishments, it always went back to her coaches, her parents, her teammates. It was never about Emma today. It was about what they've meant to her, the friendships she's made and everything like that. That really tells you all you need to know about Emma Slack. When they talk about character, it's a very strong word. Emma Slack exemplifies it. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying, good night, everyone.